Assalamualaikum. Today, I am very pleased to present the topic on the notion of Strata Lease Scheme in Malaysia, a review of the existing legislation framework. My name is Huzaifah. I am a postgraduate student from Faculty of Building Environment and Surveying, University Technology Malaysia. To begin with this presentation, I would like to explain about the objective of the research. First, we need to determine what laws are applied to strata lease scheme development. Secondly, we need to understand whether these laws are relevant to the stakeholders who are involved in the strata lease scheme project. The research methods will be a qualitative research using an objective that is cross-validate with the legal reviews made throughout this study. We are also adopting doctrinal review to review all the laws that is been studied in this research. Let us first understand what is strata lease scheme. Strata lease scheme is a strata scheme or a strata building with combining its strata titles for all its parcels having a registered lease onto the strata title. So, the definition of strata lease scheme is actually a strata scheme with a registered lease on all its strata titles. Before we embarking on determining what law involved in strata lease scheme development, we need to understand the legal issue underlying this development. First, some scholars are saying there is a limitation on current law because there is no specific law to cater strata lease scheme development. Due to this reason, some scholars say there is a need for new law, and some scholars say there is a need to amend the current law to suit the requirement of buyers and also other stakeholders. One of the legal issues is that the property rights over the buyer on a lease scheme development. They saying that there is no proprietorship over buyers when they are buying a strata lease scheme. And another one is that a lease scheme requires the lessor to dominate every side of the contract, saying that the lessor or the land proprietor owns everything and they have the rights to regulate everything inside the agreement. And some saying that due to this lease property, the value of the lease will be decreased upon the expiring term of the lease agreement, meaning that at the end of 99-year lease, the property value will drop to zero. And some even saying that there is no law saying what kind of management and what are the management processes and procedures are required to govern a strata lease scheme buildings. From these issues, we are able to design the research gap. In order to research gap, we need to understand the problem statements. The problems is actually arising due to the issues of the various perspective and expectation over strata lease scheme legislation. And through that, we are able to identify the gap where there is insufficient understanding of knowledge on overall concept of the law that is required under strata lease scheme development. So, in order to bridge this gap, we need to stream down these differences into one standard understanding of requirement that is needed under the law of strata lease scheme. In the research funding, we were able to identify the law that is actually govern strata lease scheme development projects in Malaysia. After few interviews with the respondents, some of the respondents highlighted these laws that is using in their processes. For example, the National Land Code, the Strata Management Act, the Strata Title Act, Housing Development Control and Licensing Act, Town and Planning Country Act, Probate and Administration Act, Small Estate Distribution Act, Federal Constitution, and the Trustee Act. In each of these laws, there is a certain requirement that is highlighted that is necessary to use in a strata lease scheme development. For example, a lease registration in National Land Code and single proprietorship forming under Strata Management Act. And there's also the issuance of strata title under Strata Title Act. And there is also the need and the responsibility of the developer itself under Housing Development Control and Licensing Act. And the Town Country Planning Act requires an approval for strata building or strata lease scheme development. Under the Probate and Administration Act, there is a clause saying about administrating lease property. And also under Small Distribution Act, there is also a clause saying how to administrate an estate of lease property by the deceased and also by the beneficiaries. The Federal Constitution also tells that the right to property to every citizens of Malaysia, which means in under Article 13, any kind of property, including a lease property, which is a strata lease scheme, cannot be deprived from the person who bought the property. Under Trustee Acts, there's also the power of trustee, the power to nominate trustee, and the power to tell how many trustees are allowed to be registered onto the title. Here, we need to discuss whether the current law is relevant or there is need for an amendment to the law, or is there a need for a new law. In the case study, we discovered that all strata lease scheme project in Malaysia has been long established since 1980s, and some recently established in Medini in the year 2000 has been using the same law. There is no amendment law was made onto this current law, and there were no new law exist to cater such development. So we can understand that there is no major adjustment needed to the current law to accommodate this development of strata lease scheme as per view by some scholars. So what we understand that the current case studies or the current strata lease scheme that is established has proven that strata lease scheme is possible to be governed with the current law within the process that is stated in the current law. In order to conclude this research, we need to answer the objective. First, what are the laws? From the study, we discovered there is 9 laws that is governing strata lease scheme. This law underpinning the strata lease scheme development. However, it must be cross-read and read together in order for you to understand the overall concept of strata lease scheme development. Next, we understand that there is no requirement for a new law, which means that this law is already sufficient to oversee the operation of strata lease scheme development in Malaysia. And for that, I would like to thank you, the audience, for listening to my presentation. I hope the audience would gain some knowledge over strata lease scheme development legislation from this presentation. Thank you.